In thrillers, the obvious answer is never the answer. We'll talk about this on Film Threat Reviews. Hi, I'm Alan Ning. I was Zorianna Kit, and today we're reviewing The Woman in the Window on Netflix. An agoraphobic woman living alone in New York begins spying on her new neighbors, only to witness a disturbing act of violence. Directed by Wright, written by Tracy Letts, stars Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, and Anthony Mackie. A very interesting story because it's got vibes of Rear Window and a lot of these window movies. What did you think of The Woman in the Window?
Okay, you can't even say it has vibes of Rear Window. It actually has scenes from Rear Window in it. So this is actually based on a book. Tracy Letts adapted this book. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, this movie was supposed to come out in 2019, but apparently test audiences were so confused. They brought in Tony Gilroy to do some rewrites. Then they did reshoots. And then all of a sudden, during the Fox-Disney merger, Disney was like, nah, we don't want this Fox inheritance. No, thank you. And then now it's on Netflix.
Yeah, that's one thing that caught me, because when I started the movie, we got the Fox opener.
Yes.
And I'm like, whoa, this went right to Netflix.
But listen, this movie is perfectly suited for Netflix. I mean, it is in the right space, because this film it's silly, kind of borderlines on camp for me. That it is good that it's on Netflix, so you can watch it. And if you don't really want to continue, that's okay. If you want to pick it up a week later, that's okay too. You know, that's sort of where it belongs. But you know, to me, I just thought it was kind of schlocky, and the characters are so. No, I'm not the villain, says the man with the twirling mustache. Like, I mean, that's kind of, this would have been some Ashley Judd thriller with Morgan Freeman as the investigator, like back in the late 90s.
Yeah. Well, I would say that Amy Adams is this generation's Ashley Judd. So just a real quick plot thing. Amy Adams, agoraphobic, lives in a house, won't leave it, sees her neighbors across the street, meets the wife, the mother of the new neighbors, and then witnesses her getting murdered across the street. And then, lo and behold, another woman shows up who says she's the wife, but clearly isn't the wife.
Okay.
And now, one thing I will say is I figured out who did it pretty much right off the bat. And I brought that up in the opener. It's this idea of the most obvious answer in a thriller is never the answer. And so with that, it's real easy to figure out who the actual killer is.
Well, I mean, you could tell from the trailer who the killer is. I mean, the thing is I don't think I would be so disappointed in this movie if it wasn't director Wright who was behind it. I mean, I loved Atonement, Pride and Prejudice, Anna Karenina. I mean, The Darkest Hour, which won Gary Oldman his Oscar. And now we have Wright doing this with Gary Oldman. I mean, wow. Like, talk about just a fall. No, not a fall, a plunge. I mean, really. So this, if you told me this was a first-time director or, somebody else, I probably would give it more leeway. But I really just expected more from someone as distinguished as Wright. But the characters. I mean, Amy Adams is a children's psychologist who, in this movie, has her own psychologist who comes to her house because she's agoraphobic and won't leave the house, played by Tracy Letts. And she's always on the phone talking to her separated husband and child. We never meet them. We don't know what's happening there. And then she has this mystery tenant living downstairs. Like, oh, is he a good guy or a bad guy? But in the end, after that movie is over, you realize if the tenant character was not in the movie, like if that was completely like cut out, like I'm sure other parts of the movie were, it wouldn't add or subtract from the plot.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what's interesting though is the Tennant character is Wyatt Russell, who is John Walker, and basically she has John Walker living downstairs. But with that, okay, so I totally get why you feel the way you do about this movie, because I felt that way in at least at the end of the first act. Is like, I've seen this before. It's very formulaic. I picked out the killer right away. But to me, I think what the hook was, and what I liked about the movie was this idea of what's real and what's not real. Because in a movie like this, what's not real is actually real. And now it's the person who's the crazy one, so to speak, trying to convince everyone that she's not crazy. That's your movie. But in this one, there is this two parallels going on of what is real, the murder and the mystery behind it, and what's not real, of the hallucinations, the visions that the Amy Adams character has, and the reality of watching the story being told, where the reality is both of these realities of what's real and what's not real, and that to me is the engaging aspect of this movie and what I liked about the movie. But had it not been for that, it was just like more of the same.
Yeah, but I mean, even like there's little things that happen in a scene where you're like, oh, they're telling me I better remember this because it might be important. Like, I mean, the second Julianne Moore does a little sketch drawing, and we literally see Amy Adams put it in a drawer, and sometimes open that drawer to get something else out, and that sketch pad is there. We're just like, okay, when do you realize that this drawing was done by the dead woman and it's going to come in handy? And then even things that you don't really notice at the time, the movie tells you should have noticed, like, oh, the flashback to the earring that is sitting on the bedside table, like, and let's start connecting the dots. But we're throwing you, like, we're doing misdirects here, and this movie's so bad at doing misdirects. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just really not clever or subtle about the misdirects that it's trying to do. Yeah.
And I would agree with you, and that's why I say is, like, if it weren't for this one aspect, I'm putting my whole the whole likability of this movie for me on this one aspect of the movie that I thought played out well, and it was interesting, and so that's why I am giving it a bare recommendation just for that. But again, everything you bring up, it's typical thriller. It's typical thriller stuff. It's something that Hitchcock did first and did better.
Yes. And, so why are you referencing Hitchcock movies in this movie?
Because it's Rear Window. It's Rear Window.
Are you trying to apologize to him, or are you saying, okay, I'm just letting you know right off the bat, I'm just trying to just totally, either subvert the genre or play up to the genre and go full on genre, but don't just kind of be like.
But that is the aspect. That is what I am saying, is the way it subverts the genre is this idea that, because these thrillers that have the protagonist who's on heavy medication, seeing and just the way it plausibly brings in the visions and the hallucinations and the paranoia she has, and accepts it and embraces it and says, yes, she is paranoid. She is delusional. She is hallucinating things. And then being able to weave that into this thriller. Okay, that one aspect is the thing that gives me, that bare recommendation.
And of course, she has a cat. So of course we know, like, the cat's going to figure into different scenarios, because why are we focusing so much on the cat? Like, there's just things like that are just.
Yeah. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. This certainly. It's one of those. Well, they had taken this thing that I like about the movie and kind of leaned into that more.
Yes.
And tried to find more clever ways of taking the thriller aspects of it.
But listen, the thing is, I watched this movie through and through. Like, I didn't feel like I wanted to stop it. I wasn't like, This is so ridiculous. I can't keep going. I enjoyed, like, it was entertaining. But it was, I mean, that's why I said Netflix is the perfect home for it. If you'd gone to see it in a theater, you would have felt like you wasted your time, your money, the parking, the popcorn, all that stuff. But making it on Netflix is much more palatable. You don't feel so bad. It's kind of like, Friday night, I'm bored. I'm just going to see what's on Netflix. Okay, I'll watch it.
I mean, there is an effort that has to be made to go to a theater and see your movie, and
especially
and that's why movies need to be more than television shows. And so, it's on Netflix. That's its perfect home. You sit down, you plop it down, you say, "Hey, Amy Adams is in a movie. Gary Oldman's in a movie. Let's watch it." And there you go. Yeah, I definitely would not have gone out to a theater to see the movie.
You agreed with me, but you did hinge everything on this one plot line, and you did say it's a bare recommend. So does that mean you either give it a 5 or a 6? I would assume
a 6. A bare recommend is a 6. Okay. I want to see interesting things in movies, and this gave me something interesting. But again, you mentioned it, the typical thriller aspects of it just did not elevate it beyond that. And so, take it for what it's worth. If you're a fan of Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, Julianne Moore, okay, go see the movie. Okay, so clearly, it's obvious you didn't like it as much as I did. So the question is, how bad was it? You did sit all the way through it, so I'm going to say you gave it a 5.
Yes, I gave it a 5. I just can't really justify giving it a 6, but it's not a recommend. If it was in theaters, I would definitely say skip it. But
it's not like Amy Adams and Gary Oldman gave bad performances.
No, and they didn't. They didn't. Like, no one did. Even like Anthony Mackie, who's barely in it, or it's the cast is great. That's what makes you go, man, I want to see this. It's got all the right people.
Yeah, and after seeing Anthony Mackie, how can you not want to stay married to him? I mean, really. So let us know what you thought of The Woman in the Window. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. Let us know what you thought. Did you like it better than us? Do you think I'm crazy? If you did, please like, subscribe, comment below. And with that, let's get out of here.